The next one is from Basho. I'm just going to read a poem or something. Says, tilting his hat, Su-Shi would look at the cloudy heavens, and Tufu, his hat covered in snow, would rove far and wide in this grass hut. I have time. Yeah, I have some time to read this podcast before I go to the park and work out. And in this grass hut, I have time. And so with my own hands have made a rainproof hat out of paper, imitating the hat Sagyo wore in his lonely wanderings. Yeah, and I'm imitating in a way Basho, the same way that Basho's imitating Sagyo.
Maybe we'll get some staff. And we have no staff.
Take it, David. Look, nice.
Oh, for one glove?
Yeah, why not? No, that's for woman.
One glove for woman,
nice.
yeah.
Nice.
Nice,
Look.
yeah. It's nice. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, what's happening? What's happening? God. Oh.
Let us learn to hold our tongue very well. We cannot take back the wrong words in this podcast that pour out. They lead to unrest and malice. They blur the hearts of the believers. Do not hit another person's belief while trying to criticize someone. Yeah, okay, well, don't criticize. And don't hit their beliefs in this podcast. Otherwise, we would have assumed his responsibility. Why does God, the Almighty, not expose and embarrass people for their small mistakes? Yeah, why hasn't he embarrassed me that much in these podcasts? Because one of his qualities is the concealer. Quote, concealer, unquote. Whether you are right or wrong, stop confronting people with their faults. Yeah, and stop taking behind their back. Discipline your ego a little in this podcast. Discipline your ego a little in this aspect. Otherwise, you will incur material and spiritual damages. Yeah. I could incur, material damages if I don't discipline my ego. Is that what happened to you? Well, it's already 7:15. What's the alarm? Oh my God, as the kids get up. Discipline yourself to finish this podcast. Okay. I'm reading from, various books. Are you still reading books? Yeah. The Secret Garden, The Sufi Path by Farouk Dilar. Yeah, he says, I was born in 1946. And Verzerkopru, county of Samsun. Not Samsung, the phone, but Samsun, which is in Turkey, I guess. What happened to your citation? Oh, wait. This is on the Kindle, so you have to be patient. Yeah, but I thought you got things up fast on the Kindle. Why should I be patient? He had a higher education in economics. He received computer education in Germany and England. Oh, so he's not some purely Turkish guy. After 30 years of business life, so he's like you in a way. Did you have 30 years, or you only worked a little bit? Yeah. He devoted his life to this research and spread of Eunice Emery's thoughts and culture. So he has other book on Eunice Emery, Yunusemre. He's a Sufi mystic. I thought you knew about that stuff. I am still giving speeches at seminars and conferences in Turkey. Well, he says that. I don't know what year he says it. There are such people among us who have set their hearts on a master, a friend of God. Some go too far and refute others. They claim that only their master is real. Yeah, only my master is real. Of course, this is how it should be for you. You may not benefit from your master unless you believe in him. Yeah, I guess he's saying you should believe in your master. But have you ever thought of the responsibility of refuting the other knowingly or unknowingly? Do not have any prejudice about people who spend their lives for this cause because you knew about the S of Sufism. Yeah. Do you know about the S of Sufism? On this path of meaning, everyone claims that their master is the greatest. Well, how many the greatest there might be? At least remember this, and do not refute the true greatest one. Well, yeah, most of these masters, they'll still say they are either getting their power from their master, from God, and all that stuff. Do not provoke the hawks. Yeah, and I'm not trying to provoke the hawks and stuff in this podcast. Well, I thought you had become a hawk. Well, I don't want to provoke hawkism. Okay, then don't. All right. These are podcasts about the mystical path, or you might call it the Sufi path, the mystical path. It's broader in scope than Sufism. Oh, really? Is that why you read from the cloud of unknowing? Is that because you don't know anything? Or, well, it could be. Do you not know anything? Yeah. Yeah, I was reading this one phrase here. What's that phrase? Unending. Yeah, there's something from the cloud of unknowing. That's where you erase the fact that you think you know something. Oh, really? Yeah. Do you know anything at all? Yeah. Trying to see where that quotation. Why don't you have quotation? Well, problem is you lose your place more easily in a Kindle, I guess. Yeah, what happened to you? Reading from the cloud of unknowing. Do you not know where you're? Is that where you don't know where you left off? Is that what you mean by the cloud of unknowing? Yeah, you could not know where you left off. And it skips ahead sometimes. Oh, really? Yeah, if it skips ahead or back, you lose your place. Oh, is that different than a book? Yeah. That is, I lost my place. Oh, you were unknowing of your place in the book, yeah. The next one is from Basho. I'm just going to read a poem or something. It says, tilting his hat, Sushi would look at the cloudy heavens and Tufu. His hat covered in snow would roam far and wide in this grass hut. I have time. Yeah, I have some time to read this podcast before I go to the park and work out. In this grass hut, I have time, and so with my own hands have made a rainproof hat out of paper, imitating the hat Sagyo wore in his lonely wanderings. Yeah, and I'm imitating in a way Basho, the same way that Basho's imitating Sagyo. So I'm also wandering lonely. To live is to fall away, as Sochi says, of a rain's shelter. To live is to fall away, as Sochi says, of a rain shelter. Yoni Furun Mo Sarani Sochi no Yadori Kana. Miscellaneous, no season. 1682, Soji. Aranga, poet admired by Basho. Basho substitutes one word, Shiguri, winter shower, with Soji's name in this poem by Soji. Yoni Furunimo Sarani Shiguri no Yadori Kana. Soji and Basho pun on the word furu, which means both to fall, rain, snow, and to pass time. Furu means to fall and to pass time. So I've fallen into this podcast and passing the time. One of the most eminent figures in Chinese classical literature, often depicted admiring a snow scene in Chinese and Japanese art, wearing a traveler's hat, riding a donkey. Yeah, and I'm probably gonna admire the cloudy weather and wear my U.S. Open baseball cap, and I'm not gonna ride on the donkey, although I do have to move my car. Huh. Yeah, and your car is on the wrong side, and you should try to move your car to the left. And, yeah, you have to repark your donkey, which is your car. And if you take the analogy, apply, it's the same analogy to their vehicles back then, to your vehicle. Your car is a donkey. Okay. I could accept that. All right, and you're a donkey, a dumbass. You're an ass for having a car, because that makes you codependent, and it weakens you because you could have been walking. Oh God, yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I don't want my back to turn into mush from riding in a car. Oh yeah, that could happen. Yeah, this happened to a lot of people. They kind of their brain is mush from watching TV while they ride in their car. They even have the TV in the car. Oh, is that what happened? Yeah. So. Is that what happens to people? I guess so. Yeah, it has happened, I guess. What are you reading now? This is selections from Hafez. It says, it's set up like a diary. It says January 1. Can wayfarers stay happy and secure in beloved's house when suddenly the bell clangs to lift your load away with wine dye your prayer mat if the master commands. This experienced traveler has understanding of the way. If I could have understanding. January 2nd. It is morning. From the clouds of January is falling dew. Prepare the morning cup and make it a gallon cup, too. Drink the cup's blood, for it is blood that is lawful blood. Be occupied with cup, for it is an occupation fit to do. Yeah, and it's fit to do this stuff, so I'm doing it, so I don't care what you say. Oh, okay. The study Quran says, praise be to God, Lord of the worlds. Praise translates al-Hayyud, which indicates extolling the praiseworthy Mahmud and giving thanks to him for all of the favors he has bestowed in this world and for the reward that will be given in the next world. Yeah, well, I don't wait around for the reward and the next and all that stuff. In this vein, the prophet is reported to have said, quote, when you say, praise be to God, Lord of the worlds, you will have thanked God, and he will increase your bounty. Yeah, a lot of people, they hang out giving praise, and they might do prayers, and sometimes they'll hang out in the church, and they'll sing songs of praise, and we give a thanks quite often. Do you do it every meal, every morning, or every afternoon? So you'll increase your bounty? Is that selfish, though? Are you trying to get rich from prayer? Well, no, you have to be careful. So. But whatever thanks, Circe, is given for what one has already received. But I've given thanks for things I haven't received. And praise is given for the qualities the one who is praised possesses prior to having bestowed anything, and is thus more universal. Okay, praise is given for the qualities the one who is praised possesses prior to having bestowed anything. Huh. Yeah, I'm reading this study Quran, so I'm study Quran. Why are you still at 1%? Seems like you're not studying. Yeah, I haven't studied that much, I guess. Then study harder, okay? This is the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, beginning to read. So I'm beginning to read the Bhagavad Gita. And this is very, very professional because it's the Penguin Classic. Yeah, I'm beginning to read the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Penguin Classic. So it's classic. Okay. The Gita is about a decision. Above all, it is about a decision to go to war. Okay. Are you going to apply it to deciding that France is going to go into Ukraine? Or I don't know. Arjuna wonders, as perhaps all warriors do, about the identity of his enemies and his ties to them. With whom must I fight? Yeah, and there's this whole book that I actually have on the Kindle about how Saddam Hussein actually didn't have weapons of mass destruction. The CIA and the intelligence agencies of the United States made a mistake. They had bad information and they went to war with Iraq. And you know how they had 911 and the Al-Qaeda attacked the World Trade Center, and so they said, okay, we'll attack some other country. So the same thing's happening. They have to decide if they'll go to war. In Russia, they got attacked they had an attack of the ISIS attack, the music hall or the concert hall, and so they have to now decide using their intelligence if they're going to attack some other country unrelated to that attack. Oh, okay. So you think Mike was saying now they have to bring the war to us. So they're going to attack France, I guess. What? What are you talking about? Yeah, well, this is a decision to go to war. With whom must I fight? He asked Krishna. A prince from a neighboring kingdom who acts as his confidant and charioteer. Arjuna must grasp the heartbreaking fact that his enemies are his uncles, teachers, and cousins. Yeah, the funny thing is they were talking about, Mike is a Russian friend, was talking about how there were three brothers and they used to all visit each other. One was from Russia, the other was from Belarus, and one was from Ukraine. And they used to be able to just sort of socialize and visit each other. And I don't know what happened to the three brothers. And when Arjuna grasped this fact, the decision he faces renders him speechless and broken. Yeah, and in my own war, I was rendered speechless and broken. Yeah, because I was defamed and I lost everything in the war. Oh, has that happened to you? Yeah. I have this book. I don't know how spiritual it is, but it is. It's this other book here is Christopher Hitchens. He seems to be an intellectual. He's read a lot of stuff. He has a book on Thomas Jefferson. Oh, wow. So it's called Eminent Lives, Thomas Jefferson. Yeah. So, are you reading Thomas Jefferson? My wife is cooking, so don't mind all the kitchen noise, because she's on the karma yoga path, or she's working, so, and I'm on the, are you on, which path are you on? Well, I'm on the knowledge of books path. Are you reading too many books? Yeah. I'm continuing with my spiritual books on the mystic path. Like, what are you reading if you've been on the mystic path for 50 years? And yeah, like you've been reading books for 50 years. What about your meditation? Yeah. Well, you read books about meditation, or do you meditate? Yeah. Well, this one here is Baba Farid, Farid. Quite often he is quoted and translated and interpreted in commentary by Darshan Santa Param Santa Darshan Singh Ji Maharaj Param Dayal Sant Darshan Singh Ji Maharaj. What Baba Farid, Introduction to Sufi Poets Series, Book 8. Oh, here they have Book 8, Paul Smith. Him again. Well, and yeah. What happened to this book? Yeah, it's a sample, so. Farid, you only have a sample? It's a sample. Oh, he's in the collection? Yeah. The number of books this guy has, if you just look up new humanity books, you could, that's a set of books to read. Oh, okay. The next book is The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Yeah, but I thought you had you had other books that were the same thing. Yeah, I think I have quite a few, books that are of the same thing. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Yeah, because they all add something different. This is Edwin Bryant, because their commentary can be different and interessante. Okay. Finally, Agama, verbal testimony, the third source of valid knowledge accepted by Patanjali, is the relaying of accurate information through the medium of words by a trustworthy person in this podcast. Is the relaying of accurate information through the medium of words by a trustworthy person who has perceived or inferred the existence of an object to someone who has not. Vyasa describes a trustworthy person as someone whose statements cannot be contradicted. Yeah, so it's hard to contradict all the statements I make in this podcast. Bhakti Mishra adds that such a person should have keen sense of organs and be trustworthy and compassionate. And Vijnan Abhidka, that a reliable or trustworthy person is one who is free from defects such as illusion, laziness. Yeah, like if you're lazy, like you don't get up and do your meditation, or some days you get up and others you don't. You're not regular in your practice, and you don't meditate in the morning and evening, and you're lazy. So the less you do meditation, the lazier you get. Oh, so you're not lazy in this podcast? Well, when I don't podcast, it could make me lazy. But normally I get up before sunrise to do meditation. My wife was up at 6 a.m. already she did her prayers, and I don't think her prayers were as long as they usually are because she had to cook. So she's not lazy really. So, and I'm not lazy. What? But maybe just sitting and meditating and then reading a podcast and reading all these books. Some people would say that's lazy. Oh, well, those people. Yeah, like I said, people can think what they want to think. Oh, okay. Yeah. It's interesting how the master was talking about, just in his talk yesterday, about how your family members or other people complain about you searching for God. Why are you searching for God? You should be making money or something. Yeah, laziness, deceit, dull-wittedness, and so forth. Yeah. So I try not to be too dull-witted. By exercising, I play the Beethoven sonatas, and I play them very fast. What? You're not dull-witted, but you sound dull-witted. The words of such a reliable authority enter the ear and produce an image in the mind of the hearer that corresponds to the experienced by the trustworthy person. The person receiving the information in this manner has neither personally experienced nor inferred the existence of the object of knowledge, but valid knowledge of the object is nonetheless achieved, which distinguishes the source of knowledge from the two discussed previously. Yeah, if the person has actual knowledge, it'll be distinguished in their podcast, or the master's broadcast. The most important category of valid knowledge is the form of agama. Verbal testimony is divine scripture, which is also referred to as shruti, that which is heard, or shabda, the word. Wait a minute, is shabda, is that like a holy sound current, or is that music you hear in meditation, or is it just a bunch of words? Well, it's just somebody talking, and it's just reading scripture. Also, the shabda, or the word of God, is just a book. No. Since scriptures are considered to have been uttered by trustworthy persons in the form of enlightened sages and divine beings, their status as trustworthy sources of knowledge is especially valuable. Well, you're saying it is or isn't valuable? The next book is the book of Urdu Sufi poets. He may have made a consolidated book of all those Urdu poets he translated. He must have made a book of consolidated Urdu poets or something. Classical ghazals are difficult to render because of the varying modes of the couplets in the ghazal. Begum Akhtar and Mehdi Hassan have been hailed as the main pioneers of recent ghazal singing. Yeah, and you have these guys, a lot of them in like Pakistan, they actually sing this stuff.
What, David? Look, 6. What is it? 6.
They're
6.
actually good.
Wait, yeah.
No.
Should try listening to
That's a brand.
Kawali.
What's the number?
No,
Music
number
from
frame?
Pakistan.
No, it is
Can
6.
be very
6.
impressive and inspiring.
You don't know?
I don't know. Let me look.
Because
Look at the.
I saw some guy. You have
Women.
Could be
racket.
a
You have 5 free. 5 free.
Five.
Weight. Weight.
You could check the weight if you look
It's
closely.
weight.
Come on, we'll check the weight. Let's go over there.
Yeah, let's go.
You got everything?
In different forms.
Yeah.
Ultimately, within truth, there is no male or female. Only
No.
being. That's from Women of Sufism. A hidden treasure. Camille Adams Helminski. Oh, yeah? Director of the Threshold Society. But now this is like some of these repeat, like I was saying about the Yoga Sutras. 3 classical yogic texts. Yeah, well, these are the classics. So you can get 3 classical yoga texts. I had talked about Garaksha Samhita. Well, they have Goraknath Samhita, Dattatreya Yoga Shastra. I don't know if the third one is Patanjali or something. I don't know. He says, Mahamuni Dattatreya said, "O Brahman, there are many forms of yoga. I will describe all of them to you in this podcast. They are Mantra Yoga, Laya Yoga, and Hatha Yoga. And the 4th is Raja Yoga, which is the best of all yogas. It is said that there are 4 stages of yoga. They are Arambha, Gata, Parikara, and the 4th is Nispati. I will explain to you in detail, if you wish, in this podcast, all of them. Okay. First of all, the wise man should recite a mantra. Yeah, you should do your Simran or Zikr and do meditation. After placing the mantra, cause the alphabets on his body parts.
Tu vas a tomar chocolate?
Oh, do I want chocolate?
You want?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, claro. See. Yeah, I would like some. I like you can make a little leche and a leche. Any way you make it, it's okay. I have to put it on my body parts or put it in my body. Says a mild sadhaka or practitioner who is entitled to listen to this podcast, who is entitled to practice it, can attain jhana, knowledge or wisdom, probably after 12 years of practice, in addition to siddhis and like animi. So after 12 years, you could obtain perfections of 12 years of practicing. Or I was saying at one point, if you meditate 6 hours a day for 6 months, you could attain wisdom probably after 12 years of practice. Oh, you're saying after 6 months or 12 years? Yeah. Well, it's got the Sanskrit here, and it has the transliteration, which means it's got the Sanskrit script, and then it has the English sort of, or the alphabetical transcription and the translation. So this book is very professional. Like this podcast is very professional. So that's why it only has like these very professional books in this podcast. Yeah. So I'm into professionalism. So extremely professional podcaster. That's why I have the various noises with the cooking sound, and my wife makes me chocolate, so it adds a lot to the evidence of professionalism as a layman, like layman, ping. I'm like a layman practitioner. Oh, is that where you have a wife cooking? Yeah. I have chocolate and a wife cooking while I do my practice. Not during the practice. I practice before she gets up, and then I... The next book is a guide to Bodhisattva practice. I thought you were into yoga now. You have Buddhism or something here. Oh, you have all this stuff here. Buddhism, yeah. World classics. Deserves closer scrutiny. Santi Deva lived in and wrote for the Buddhist community of Nalanda. A vibrant multicultural center of learning was the Gita, a classic for him and his colleagues. To what degree might we read this reference as an implicit expression of indebtedness in a text that could make no explicit mention of such, or is it simply disrespectful mocking? Yeah, you could argue that this podcast is just disrespectful mocking of books. Yeah, you're just mocking this stuff in this podcast because you're an extreme transcendentalist meditating philosopher who doesn't believe in the existence of the mind or the body or books or anything, and you're a completely enlightened Santo who's mocking these books in this podcast. Yeah, I could be a totally enlightened Santo. And in a way, I'm mocking all the books and the scriptures. And surely an attitude of reverence towards the Gita is lacking. Yeah, and I lack reverence for the Gita, or I would be more respectful and I would probably read more of it, and I wouldn't make all the racket, and I would meditate longer. But that may be an unfairly anachronistic understanding. Yet I bring up the comparison not to initiate a close intertextual reading, but to note that the historically original reading is not the only Buddhist one. The Dalai Lama's reading, which is a modern reading. Yeah. So this is a modern reading, so it's got to be different. Suggests a perspective from which the text ought to be more respectful than the historically accurate reading suggests it is. So this is from a guide. Well, that is readings of Santi Deva's guide. He's a major, this stuff is major stuff. So, Santi Deva's Guide to Bodhisattva Practice. So, you need a guidebook on how to practice, so you should be practicing. Yeah, well, you should get a guidebook on how to play tennis, and what's your progress level? I mean, you're still stuck at the same rating, and you were supposed to be winning more sets, and you got a tournament coming up, and you're just barely learning how to position yourself on the court, and you screwed up the last time. And last time I still have this problem where I'll hit the ball or something, and I'm watching with the ball. I'm watching what's happening on the other side, and instead of running to an appropriate position in the doubles game, let's say I hit a hard ball and I'm up at the net, and so happens my partner is also up at the net, or he was up at the net and he hit the ball, and so I'm watching. Instead of running to position, I'm watching the ball. Yeah, and you screwed up the game. You should have ran back. That's an example. If he was up at the net, he ran up to hit the ball. I was supposed to cover the back end of the court, and I should have immediately ran back. Instead, I was just hanging out like a lazy bum watching the ball. Okay. Yeah, you got to be more proactive in your practice. It's the same with the Bodhisattva practice, yeah. These are the classics, I think. Yeah, I have also on the Kindle other books that aren't necessarily spiritual books, but actually they have the Harvard Classics, the complete Harvard Classics.
Yeah.
They have scriptures, 2 volumes of that as apparently scriptures. Like I said, and it's amazing what you can get for not too much money. I think I got the complete works of Henry David Thoreau. I have the complete works of Ralph Waldo Emerson. Yeah. His next in the spiritual books, actually, Ralph Henry David Thoreau's, most of his stuff could be considered spiritual books, believe it or not. And like Walden and stuff. The Transcendentalist, it's American. But the next book was, what happened to it? The Upanishads. Next he sang into being good food for himself. Whatever food is eaten by him, and he is supported by it. The God said, you have sung all this into being as food for yourself. Give us a share in this food. Then sit round me. We will, they said, and surrounded him. So whatever food one eats by means of him, the gods do enjoy. The gods enjoy? That was, I was just trying to get a good set of the Upanishads. The Upanishad is a teaching session with the Guru. This one was the Penguin Classics. Do you read the little bits of this stuff and then move on? Or? Yeah. The time you spend on them is so short, it's become like the Gen Z type of age. Are you Gen Z, millennial, or are you, well, I'm not really a Gen Z or a millennial, and I would be a baby boomer, I guess. And this next one is a Paul Smith book, and it's unusual because actually I think I've read this one about the cat and the mouse. He is Sakin. He is like a Zakani, a cat and mouse and cat. He's Zakani. The early 1330s found Abi Baid in Baghdad at the court of the young Sultan Abu Said. The court poet at the time was an older poet, Kaju Kermani, whom it is said Obaid took an instant dislike to, and the feeling was returned. That's another Paul Smith book. And I discovered the kind of the poetry of this guy, Eunice Emery, not Emron, not Enron, but Emery. Oh, who's Emery? Yeah, he pops up quite often, and he actually had some impressively soupy poetry. Not in this book, but I've read some of his stuff. And this one was the it says it's the piercing of the heart, Eunice Emery. And then this other one is the Kindle Divan of Eunice Emery. Translation, Paul Smith. Really? The Great Seljuk Turks Empire, established in Khorasan by the middle of the 11th century, had already extended its borders to Anatolia. The Empire of Byzantium that ruled Anatolia launched the Crusades to preserve its borders against the threat of the Seljuk Turks. Yeah. And this is still really going on, so why it's currently relevant. And I have on this book, on the Kindle, which is not in the spiritual category, but it has Our Enemies Will Vanish, the Russian Invasion, and Ukraine's War of Independence. Yeah. It's funny, I think the national anthem song of the Ukraine is, I think it contains the phrase, our enemies will vanish. Will they vanish in this spot? And that book sort of tells about the destruction, so it's pretty grim stuff about the war. Why do you read about war? And even the next one is this other book, The Achilles Trap, is Saddam Hussein, the CIA, and the origins of America's invasion of Iraq. Yeah, it's funny they say how he didn't have weapons of mass destruction. I try to figure out why he pretended like he did. Oh, well, it was a waste of time. Well, this stuff was a waste of time. Is your books a waste of time? Was the war a waste of time? A waste of money? Yeah. So, I don't want to waste any more time in this podcast. So, I'm going to take a break. We have chocolate. Not doing meditation or not doing a podcast and not exercising. All of those are a vicious and cruel act against mankind. Oh, so you have to meditate, do a podcast, and exercise, or you're being cruel to others. Yeah, you could say that. What's the logic of that? Well, I could pick that up in this podcast. And do you appreciate your wife making the juice? Yeah. She's making jugo or juice, so not appreciating your wife is a vicious and cruel act against mankind. This is continuing with the book reviews. I have A Year with Hafez. The translation, Paul Smith. Oh, wow. I don't know what he does here, but we'll find out. Hafez of Shiraz. And here Shiraz is quite a place, supposedly. I don't know if I'll ever be able to visit it in Iran. In 14th century Persia, Hafez spoke with an intuitive state of consciousness. Yeah, if I could do this podcast in an intuitive state of consciousness, the Divan of Hafez is an incomparable treasure in this podcast. So these podcasts are incomparable treasures if they include the Divan of Hafez. It is an ideal, intuitive map for our ignorance. Yeah, one way you can map out and do the cure for your ignorance. To be transformed by love above everything else and hurt nobody or thing. Yeah, that's what I mean by not being cruel to mankind, by maybe first meditating and then doing a podcast about how to be transformed by love and then exercising. Hafez to where it can ultimately lead us. Immortal life, Allah, God the Beloved. Yeah, that's where it could lead you in this podcast. If you meditate, listen to a podcast about spiritual books and then go exercise. Yeah. Okay. The next book is Paul Smith, too. I don't know why. If you get one thing from them, they pop up again. More pops up on the Kindle. Oh, so you're just being led around by Amazon, basically. So is this a podcast of the Amazon books that are recommended books, or is it recommended by you, or is it woke or not woke, or is it beyond being woke altogether? Yeah, the one guy was saying in the Times, the guy was saying about the coddling of the mind here, the NYU professor. He's saying that it's these concepts of the right and the left being, what it is they're fixated on the body. Yeah, if you're concerned about whether you're heterosexual or the gays or the LGBTs if you're concerned about your race and you have racism and stuff, you're focused on the body. So if you were not focused on the body, you would neither be anti-woke or woke. You could be actually woken up. Oh, wow. Yeah. You could be a consciousness-only Buddhist where you don't believe that countries exist, so you can't have really nationalism and the debates about immigration because you don't believe there's any countries. And the body doesn't exist, and the mind doesn't exist. Oh, okay. So you're a super transcendentalist philosopher. How would you fit in with the politics? Well, that's a good question. I guess I don't. I don't fit in. You don't fit in at all. No. I guess I don't fit in, so. This one is, the thing is,
Okay, how other numbers?
if you want to read about the history, you can't get actual much historical information, let's say, about the Christians and Jesus Christ. But you can read about the history of those times in Josephus.
89.
And I have the complete works. Wow. Complete? Yeah. Now, what he did was, it's interesting, he may have become a Roman citizen. He's Jewish, and he writes he's a historian, but Flavius Josephus, he talks about, what's he talk about? According to Matthias, the son of Asamoneus, one of the priests who lived in the village called Modin, armed himself together with his own family, which had 5 sons of his in it, and slew Bacchidus with daggers. And thereupon, out of the fear of the many garrisons of the enemy, he fled to the mountains, and so many of the people followed him that he was encouraged to come down from the mountains to give battle to Antiochus's generals when he beat them and drove them out of Judea. Yeah, for political reasons, he probably sided with the Romans. So he's like a collaborator or whatever he is. And remember, they had the rebellion of at some point they had the rebellion of the Jewish people, etc., etc., etc. Yeah. Well, you're going to read the whole thing. It's quite long, complete works. What's amazing is you're plugging Kindle again. You can get you can get some of these like gigantic books, old books usually, for a couple dollars maybe. These are like books that are long past their copyrights, and so you can get this stuff for a couple bucks because it's sort of like a fee just to pay for the electrical service. It's like, is that like getting electricity? Yeah, you're getting electricity to your brain and getting something to read. Yeah. This one is the Gethsemane Talks. So Gethsemane is a monastery place, Trappist monks down in Kentucky. Yeah, did you go there? I thought you were going to go there or something. That's where Thomas Merton was. I read a book about Thomas Merton. So I sort of was living there within the book. Oh yeah, that's an interesting. And you podcasted that? I may have podcasted that, yeah. So, Thomas Merton, but this is from John Mayne's seminar. Annually, the John Mayne Seminar in the Way of Peace events bring meditators together in dialogue with other traditions and global movements. Yeah, and I'm trying to create a global movement in this podcast. The community also sponsors retreat schools for the training of teachers of meditation, seminars, lectures, and other programs. Yeah, this is a seminar and a lecture, and it's also a program, and it's all that stuff in this podcast. It contributes to interfaith dialogue particularly. Yeah, and I definitely contribute to interfaith dialogue. Wow. In recent years with Buddhists and Muslims, I definitely do. Interfaith dialogue between Christians, Buddhists, and Muslims. And a quarterly spiritual letter with news of the community is mailed. Also available online. Weekly readings are available by email. A growing number of online resources are being developed to help the spiritual journey with the help of the latest technology. Yeah. I don't know if I have the latest technology and all that stuff, but a podcast is probably not the latest. Oh, Hugo. This enables new initiatives such as the teaching of meditation to children, networking young adult spirituality, and the contemplative dimension of the life of priesthood. Yeah, I thought to be a priest in ancient Egypt, so. Media is the publishing arm of the community, producing a wide range of books and audiovisual titles to support the practice of meditation. That's not the lecture. Don't know what happened to the lecture in this book. The Gethsemane talks. Yeah, and it's not a sample. I actually own it, and I'm on near the end. It could be near, not the lecture, it could be near the end. This comes from the World Community for Christian Meditation, not Buddhist or Muslim. Okay, so get it. Wake up. Okay. All right. No. Yeah, just to show that I have interfaith dialogue, I have the study Quran now. Now the study Quran is, they talks that's so big, like the introduction. I've been reading this book for a while, and I'm at 1% of the book. It's crazy. What is it?
You crazy. What is crazy?
I can talk. I can say anything I want to in this podcast.
Baby, you crazy.
I can say anything I want to in this podcast, and I have freedom of expression.
Because are you crazy, right?
And this, I have intra-family dialogue in this podcast. What's all that? What's all these papers? Do you have taxes? What is that?
100 for you.
Oh, wow. In prop we trust. Motion picture purposes.
See? You're welcome, David.
$100. It's even got the blue band on it. You can see. Why do they have this in props we trust? They have all this fake money, $100 bills, and for motion picture purposes. Probably people use it. All but one of the 114 surahs of the Quran begin with, in the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, known as the Basmala in Arabic, which also appears in 2730. There is a debate as to whether the Basmala is a verse of each surah or an indication of the beginning of a new surah. Yeah, so the whole seems I'm like still stuck in the introduction of this book. So I've read 8 chapters or something of the Quran. And why do you do that? Well, I have interfaith dialogue. Okay. And what happened here, the Sufi martyrs of love, here it says, well, it's because they read the Quran. For Sheikh Nizam Adin, the only spiritual practice to which Sama can be compared is the practice of Quran. It is in the practice of Quran recitation and listening to music, Sama, he observes that the devotee experiences a sense of spiritual bliss, which may be manifest as celestial lights, mystical states, and physical effects. Each of these 3 derives from 3 worlds, the present world of this angelic spirit and the potential realm, this last being intermediate between the first 2. And these 3 manifestations of spiritual bliss may occur in one of 3 places: the spirit, the heart, the bodily limbs. At first, celestial lights descend from the angelic spirit on the spirit, then mystical states descend from the potential realm on the heart, and finally physical effects from the present world, a light on one's limbs. So my limbs are getting lit up, and I'm thinking I have to go out and exercise now, because I had said that I have to meditate, podcast, and exercise, and drink my juice, and go out, and I have to meet Mike and play volleyball. Okay, do it then. Okay. This one is a secret, though I may add it. It's called The Secret Garden, Sufi Path. Farouk Dilaver. He's that, I guess. He's like a Turkish guy. Who's he? I do not love God for interest. We do not follow the measures as a servant, but we attempt to appreciate it. We get ourselves involved in everything. Yeah, I get myself involved in everything. And we rebel by asking why it does not happen that way. In other words, we do not follow the measure and have faith in what is appreciated. This is to get involved in God's business. Do not act like this. People sometimes feel cheerful and sometimes distressed, but they do not know the cause of this most of the time. Yeah, I don't know the cause of most of the stuff. They tolerate and have affinity for everyone when they are cheerful. Yeah, when I'm cheerful, I'm pretty tolerant. When they are distressed, they are less patient. Yeah, and when I'm distressed, I'm less patient. They easily break hearts in the smallest instance and offend those around them. Yeah, and a lot of times people are offended by this podcast. They never think of taking refuge in God. Well, I sometimes take refuge when I do meditation for the purpose of taking refuge in God. What is importante is to stay in between joy and distress. Why shouldn't I just stay in joy and not, why do I have to stay in between? What is importante, what is important is to stay in between joy and distress, neither to be happy for the joy and not to be sad for the distress. It is to be in balance. Yeah, I've been trying to be in balance with my time management and all that stuff. How are you managing your time? I mean, I would say exercising. You've been doing maybe an excess of exercise. The last 2 days you did 4 hours, and I know your friend is pressuring you to practice. And yeah, my tennis partner, he's asking me to exercise at 4 o'clock or 4:30, and because he's working and he wants to practice tennis. So most of the days I've been exercising, like sometimes 9 to 12, and then he wants to meet at 4 and exercise till 7. And what are you doing? You're so out of balance. Do not suppose that this is monotony. And don't consider these podcasts and my tennis playing. It's not monotony. Monotony. Yeah, it's not boring. So I thought it was boring. I thought you were boring. Well, this podcast is not tended to be boring, but yeah, I'm trying to work out lifestyle hacks and how to meditate and how to read scriptures and exercise, and I have been very I don't want to drive the car. Well, you did drive the car. Yeah, I did drive the car. You drove it to the tennis court. Why is that so important? Why is that important when you have to take your wife home? Yeah, today actually I'm taking my wife to her cita or appointment to the doctor, so I'm not actually exercising, but I will exercise at 4 probably today. So I'm actually resting my arm. Oh, you're resting it? Is that monotonous what you're doing? No. Remaining stable at all times is the most suitable environment to see different manifestations around. Yeah, you got to have some stability, and you can't be like completely unstable life to do meditation. Oh, wow. Okay, so have you stabilized it or not? I don't know. Do not enter the path of the truth for a benefit. Well, okay, he says not to enter it. Oh, I've been trying to benefit by getting the positive vibrations, and it improves my health, and I pick up. Oh, I thought you were meditating for your health, or you had a purpose, or you were trying to go up to heaven. Or what is your purpose? Well, that's why I read these books. Your purpose is to read books, and I saw you ordered a bunch of books from the library. You shouldn't lie about the fact that you're reading a lot of books and going to the library. You lie about the fact that you meditate really a lot. Instead, you're reading books. And yeah, what are you doing? Do not enter the path of the truth for a benefit. Do not love the truth for a benefit. Well, I've been trying to benefit my soul by listening to the music of the spheres, and benefit it by looking at the light. Which light? What's a light? Why do you have the lights on? Always remember that the greatest blessing is to complete our lives on this path relentlessly and to pass away in faith. Well, I'm not going to pass away, and I don't have to convince myself. I don't have to go on blind faith. Yeah. Oh, so you don't want blind faith, you want totally enlightened faith. If you're totally enlightened, do you need faith? Admit the effort and the determination to complete our lives on the path of the truth as the greatest gain. No. Well, you have to, I guess, realize that that's the greatest gain, and you keep obsessing about the return of your portfolio and your money in the bank and stuff, and you must be stupid. Do you love God? Here, this is the greatest blessing. He allowed you to love Him. He allowed you to love the ones He loves. So He's letting me love the Master who loves God. So if I can love the Satguru or love my Guru or my Master, then He allowed me to. Oh, who's allowing who? He allowed you to love His Prophet. Do not accept anything else, otherwise He will get bored quickly, huh? Oh, okay, so I could become a boring person if I don't He doesn't allow me to love the Prophet. Oh, who's the Prophet and what makes a prophet? Oh, the man who walks on the earth with pride and arrogance. Have you ever thought that there are small creatures, ants on the grass, earth plains that you walk on? Do you, how many lives you claim on each step that you take without knowing? That seems like more of like a Hindu or a Jainism or something. What's this guy talking about? He's a Muslim. Does he care about ants? The telepathic ants? Do you live with such consciousness? Or do you think that your supplications have not yet been accepted before you even feel the need to think of these? Yeah, what is this guy? Who is this guy writing? Well, somehow the secret garden of the Sufi path. He seems to be writing about something about the Sufi path. Are you on the Sufi path? Well, this next book is Hafez of Book 2, The Middle Years. It's Paul Smith. He says, at last, thank God, she is now in confinement or on the bricks, as her mother, Parian, declares. She later tells me, and I am witness. She demands that I see it all, to some of the most extraordinary rituals and procedures inspired by old Fatima, which her mother and my mother and Layla and Shirini and the other women must swear to carry out, and one can possibly imagine my mother and Layla seem to be at home with most of what is requested. First, her eyebrows were blackened with charcoal, so that if by chance someone dressed in bright colors happened to enter the room, no harm would befall her or the child inside her. I don't know what section he's talking about. It's the Hafez of Siraz, the life, poetry, and time. Yeah. Is that another book you have? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. What's in these books? Yeah, I have here, which I skip over because it's not a spiritual. It's not spiritual? I thought it would be. Well, I have the Gulag Archipelago. What? Solzhenitsyn on the Gulag. Are you in the Gulag, or are you going to be sent to the Gulag if Putin wins World War III? Does he send you to the Gulag, or is he being sent to the Gulag? Yeah, it'd be interesting if he was sent to the Gulag. I don't know. So, yeah, that would be nice if they just moved Russia itself to the Gulag. Yeah. I mean, if they say if Russia is if Ukraine is part of Russia, then it might make sense that the Ukrainians take over Russia. Yeah, they could take over like St. Petersburg, Moscow, and the Moscoids. Then they could send the people who started the war to the Gulag. Yeah, that would be good. I'm going to enter this book. It's really, you could say it's spiritual. It's called Basho. Remembering Tufu. With his beard blowing in the wind and the lamenting late autumn. Whose child is this? Etigi, Hagazi, Afrute, Basho, Gutranzu, Awa, Tagatkotsu. Autumn 1682, the poem derives from the line in Tufu. Whose child propped on a goosefoot crane, lamenting this world. This book here is, since I had read Basha's poetry, somehow I ended up with the complete haiku. This book is the complete haiku. Yeah, it's not just a few poems, okay? It's the complete haiku, not just some survey book slammed together. It's Basho, the guy who wrote The Narrow Road to the Deep North, or the deep road to the narrow north. The narrow road to the deep north. He wrote that. Are you going to Japan on the deep road? Yeah, I'm gonna go, so I'm finishing this podcast so I can make plans to go to the narrow road. To where? To your wife's doctor appointment. Yeah.
Same thing? Same game? Or you want? No. It's still the same game? That's right. Mike is coming this side? Same game, right? Yeah. Mike. Where?
Continuing my book samples. This one would be Lotus Sutra. Oh, wow, that's pretty heavy. In contrast, scholars who approach a Lotus Sutra as a literary text have tended to see the one vehicle's lack of explicit doctrinal content, along with the sutra's self-referential character, as a distinctive literary technique that is in fact performs or enacts the sutra's meaning viewed in this light. The Lotus Sutra dramatizes the message that in light of the emptiness of all things, means and ends cannot ultimately be divorced, and that Buddhahood is inseparable from the practices undertaken to achieve it. That's some Lotus Sutra. I heard a lot about that in the haiku poetry, and Basho, Sagyo, readings of the Lotus Sutra. I don't see the author. Oh, really? Yeah. And the next one, the Rubaiyat. This is 5 poets. It's back to Paul Smith. Rumi brought to the Rubai a number of images that were not used before, which have a direct connection to the dervish dance or dhikr. Dhikr is like Simran. Whirling in music can be discovered in quite a few of these poems, and it is most likely that they were composed spontaneously while Rumi was in this ecstatic state. When that one plays music, I have to clap my hands. I was created crazy. I laugh at that what dignity demands. I proved that one's heart made my heart do handstands and created me into whatever form that one commands. Then it has Sadi, S-A-D-I, Sadi of Shiraz, a contemporary of Rumi who influenced him, was another master poet. Yeah, this is a lot of poets in here and stuff. So there's a lot of poets on the Kindle. He has a rose garden, the Kulistan, and the orchard of Bustan. He says, I can't help it anymore. I have to get up and go. Even if the foe hits me with a sword or an arrow, I will grab friend's sleeve if I am able. This I know. If I can, I'll die at friend's threshold when I go. That was like the Rubaiyat of 5 great Sufi poets of India by Paul Smith. Interesting. It has here. This is one thing that was interesting that I find interested in. I find the story of, it has Sarmad and Darashiko, Beetle, and Holly and Iqbal. So it's got 5 poets that I don't have elsewhere. So these are more books on the Kindle. This one's In the Bazaar of Love. This is by Khusro. He says, my home was the Dome of Islam. I was the Qibla for kings of the 7 climes. Delhi is the twin of pure paradise, a prototype of the heavenly throne on an earthly scroll. Such statements link his name to the city. So he's been linked to the city of Delhi. In 1280, Amir Khusro attracted the attention and became the Nadine of the Sultan's son, the young Prince Khan Malik Sultan Muhammad, who was by all accounts a warm, generous, and charming individual. Okay, so the young Prince Muhammad was fond of poetry and gathered the best poets around him. So, it that what happened? His court at Multan was a significant cultural center that rivaled even Delhi for the time. Multan was home of the Surabardi Sufi order, and Khusrau, Khusrau, must have had contacts with the Sufis based there. In all likelihood, he witnessed and participated in performance of devotional singing that would later develop into Qawwali. Yeah, Qawwali is this inspired Urdu sort of like singing. It's actually quite pleasing. Are you going to Pakistan? I'm going to the Qawwali festival in Pakistan. Oh, are you? Oh. No. Well, that's that book. In the Bazaar of Love by Amar Khusrau. The next book is Attar, The Memorial of God's Friends. I've been reading this one. It's stories about saints written by Attar, the famous guy who did Conference of the Birds. Trusting God and relinquishing deliberation and abandoning one's own powers and wiles. Someone endowed with intimacy is terrified by this world and its creatures except for the friends of the real. Because intimacy with his friends is intimacy with the real. When he cast his friends into the joy of intimacy, it is as though he were speaking with them in paradise in the language of light. When he casts them into the joy of awe, it is as though he were speaking with them in hell in the language of fire. The key to devotion is meditation. The sign of achieving it is opposition to the self, and lost opposition to them is forsaking desires. Whoever perseveres in meditating in his heart sees the unseen world in his spirit. So he has stories about a number of Muslim Sufi saints and stuff. And this one's daily silence and stillness. Silence and stillness. Let's see. John Main, as he teaches Christian meditation. Daily readings with John Main. Silence and stillness in every season. Actually, I've read this before, where I read like one day before I read this whole book, like you read one, it has a date, like, and you read a passage for each day of the calendar year. January 7th. Meditation is not the time for words in this podcast, however beautifully and sincerely phrased. All our words are wholly ineffective when we come to enter into this deep and mysterious communion with God. In order to come into this holy and mysterious communion with the Word of God indwelling within us, we must first have the courage to become more and more silent. In a deep creative silence, we meet God in a way which transcends all our powers of intellect and language. We have to listen, to concentrate, to attend rather than to think. Silence is really absolutely necessary for the human spirit if it really is to thrive, and not only just to thrive, but to be creative. Yeah, I need silence to have a creative response to life. Oh, is that where you go to your room and you just lay down? And is that the same as being lazy? Or to our environment, to friends, because the silence gives our spirit room to breathe, room to be. In silence, we cannot have to be justifying yourself, apologizing for yourself, trying to impress anyone. You just have to be, and it's a most marvelous experience when you come to it. And the wonder of it is that in that experience you are completely free. You are not trying to play any role. You are not trying to fulfill anyone's expectation. That's word into silence. Actually, yeah, so I just happen to like John Main, M-A-I-N. If you want to meditate with Christians, it's called Christian meditation. And there's some more books about him. This one is called Hatha Yoga Pradakapita, which the book ends with a practice of nad or sound current yoga, so it's very credible. These then are the basic Hatha Yoga Kriyas, which tend to purify the energy patterns and to bring a balance between them. When these patterns are well under control, and then you can force your mind into one point. Otherwise, what happens when you try to concentrate on a circle? You start to get a faint image of a circle, but then it starts to change its shape. It becomes elongated, it becomes oval, it starts to break asunder and starts to go completely out of order. You are not able to form a perfectly steady image of the circle, because the nature of the pranas is fluctuation, and the characteristic of the mind is motion. Prana can never be motionless. The pranas are always moving, and the mind is ever changing as well. So I have a number of these books on yoga, actually, because that's what it's all about. And this one is Shamsi Tabriz. What's that? Well, it's actually Shams of Tabriz, the master of Rumi, Farooq Dilaver. Yeah, he is like, he's a Turkish guy, I guess. Anyway, it says, according to me, there is both drunkenness and sobriety in love. This means that the lover sometimes forgets, but according to Rumi, there is drunkenness in love, but no sobriety. For me, there cannot be forgetfulness in case of drunkenness. Someone said, do you ever talk to God? Another one said, yes, I do. I said, now your lie has been exposed. I put some pressure on him and said, now tell him to reply to you. And he said, that is hard. I said, this was hard before too, but you said it was easy. Just like he who fell behind in their discussion with the religious scholar, Hakak bin Yusuf. Hakak had said to him, why don't you show your insufficiency before? Like Pharaoh saying, I believed when he understood that he would drown. The ones who want to walk in the front should always take to the end into consideration. The ones who want to walk in the front should always take the end into consideration. Those who say, I know and understand man at first sight, is wrong. What have they found and what do they rely on? You try to walk in your own inner realm. Try to go beyond it. Well, that's... the book is interessante. It's Shama Tabriz is interessante. The master of Rumi. And this one is Asian Traditions of Meditation. Oh, wow. I had another book like this and read though. I had a book on varieties of meditation. This one's on Asian meditation. Here it is worth outlining some basic assumptions of Mahayana and Tantric Buddhism in Tibet. Western understandings of Buddhism see the historical Buddha, Sakyamuni, as a human teacher living at a particular point in time whose activities form the starting point of a tradition developed by a succession of later historical personages. By contrast, the Tibetan perspective has a different and much expanded sense of the nature of Buddha and of Buddhahood. Within this perspective, the historical Buddha was an example an emanation or projection of a universal principle or capability that is variously called Buddhahood, Buddha nature, enlightenment, or the Dharmakaya. So, that's Asian traditions of meditation. And this one is the Rose Garden of Mystery. It's here's another guy. There's more people than I could imagine. Shabbastari, the Rose Garden of Mystery. Shabbastari appears, and says, going back to the relation of the law to the state of sanctification, called in the fourth answer the truth, and here called the knowledge of faith. Shabbastari compares the former to the shell and the latter to the pearl within. The Sufi must extract this pearl, but on the other hand, he must not break the pearl. He must not break the shell till the pearl within it is fully formed. The law is a schoolmaster to bring him to the truth. Without this faith, this fixed spiritual habit, this structure this settled internal character or state of the heart, no internal legal things are virtuous in the highest sense. The book of Undine Chisti, another Paul Smith book. Chisti is a famous Sufi of India. In this way, a poet is born. There are two signs which reveal the poet. One sign is imagination. The other is feeling, and both are essential on the spiritual path. A man, however, learned and good, who yet lacks these two qualities, can never arrive at a satisfactory result, especially on the spiritual path. The sacred scriptures of all ages, whether of the Hindus or the Farsis, the race of Ben Israel, or of others, were all given in poetry or in poetic prose. No spiritual person, however great, however pious and spiritual advance, has ever been able to give a scripture to the world unless he was blessed with the gift of poetry. One may ask if this would still be possible nowadays, when sentiment takes second place in life's affairs. Yeah, all my poetry and podcasts take second place, I guess. And people wish everything to be expressed plainly, cut and dried, as the saying is. And when one has become so accustomed to having everything, if you have accustomed to having everything on the internet, and the AI program can just bring it up, and especially in science, explained in clear words, but it must be understood that facts about the names and forms of this world may be scientifically explained in plain words, but when one wishes to interpret the sensation one gets when looking at life, it cannot be explained except in the way that the prophets did in poetry. Chisti. There's a book here on women and Sufism. And there's three classical yogic texts. And these things are more better than you think, though. The Shiva Samhita turns out to be better than you might think. When the rear part of the head is meditated upon, death is conquered. The unrivaled reward produced merely by looking between the eyebrows has been taught. Oh, wow. The child produced from the 4 types of food is divided into 3 types, and of those, the most essential part nourishes the subtle body. The The next one nourishes the physical body, which is made of 7 constituents. The third leaves the body in the form of urine and feces. The lower 2 are said to be nadis, and all nadis propel wind about the body from the sole of the feet to the head. Yeah, and they have the Sanskrit here in translation. I like this one more than your critical edition. Yeah, it was, some of these didn't cost much. Some of these I own, and they didn't cost much. Shiva Samhita, the critical edition and English translation. James Mallinson. Yeah. Then there's another John Mayne biography. It says Malaya and the Swami. John Mayne's next adventure in the direction of the East had friends bemused by his career choice. This was a pivotal decision, and its consequence was forever to change John Mayne's life as well as the lives of thousands of people around the world. In the spring of 1954, he applied to join the British Colonial Service. Perhaps the best explanation for this move came from friend Robert Farrell, who categorized John Mayne as a left-wing independent, politically a socialist, and perhaps the last person to join the British Colonial Service. Says Farrell, he's the last one to join. Yeah, what happened to their colonies? I'm not sure why he made this decision, knowing his politics, pacifism, dislike of colonial and imperial adventures, and admiration of Gandhi. It was at first sight a strange choice, but it was an experience and adventure. John was very curious about everything, and I think curiosity had a lot to do with it. However, the most likely reason was that it was a job, and Douglas was broke. Douglas. Whatever the reason, many countries in the British Empire were gaining their independence, and John Mayne was looking forward to the excitement and involvement in this momentous period of history. Yeah, it's John Mayne, a biography. 6, it's like Paul Harris or something as the author. You got more books here? Oh my God. You had books in the last podcast. Yeah, I'm trying to prove that I read books. Does this prove it? Well, I have to prove that I read books and instead of watch TV, or the people will think I'm stupid. Okay. This one's the sayings of Layman Pang, a Zen classic of China. Yeah, Layman Pang, he's like, I think he knew the 2 founders of the different sects of the different schools of Zen in China and Japan, like Rinzai and Soto or something. It's quite interesting. And Layman Pang means he's a householder, so he doesn't become like a Buddhist monk. I thought, are you a monk or are you a layman also? Or, yeah, I would have to be a layman. I'm a layman because I'm not in a monastery. Yeah. Quote, ordinary mind is the way. This is one of the most famous formulations of Chinese Zen. In other words, all of our daily thoughts and deeds, collecting firewood and carrying water, without self-entanglement, are the very Dharma we seek. No need for exalted states of mind or exalted robes. Yeah, I don't have to exalt this podcast for it to be the Dharma we seek. The extraordinary, ordinary is quite enough. Yeah, this is an extraordinary but ordinary podcast because it's got these ordinary stuff in it with the chocolate and my wife and the the tennis stuff, and ordinary mind is the way. Yeah, to have the podcast Ordinary. The expression was first used by Matsu, his renowned disciple Nansen made it famous. Layman Pang brought it home. Layman Pang's decision to remain a layman has been lauded for well over a millennium. Yeah, and I've been lauded for being an ordinarist person. I'm ordinary even if I didn't want to be. Yeah, well, you play like piano, but you're not a concert pianist, and you play tennis, and you're getting better, I guess, but I'm not sure you're going to win a championship and win the upcoming tournament. And I mean, it's fun to do, but I just don't see you as a tennis pro. The Pang family has become an exemplar of living Buddhists truly at home. Well, I'm at home doing this podcast in an ordinary way, yet unconsumed by material or spiritual possessions. But I still obsess over some of the possessions, and not that much though. I used to have a tendency towards decluttering and minimalism, and what happened to that? Let us not forget, however, that it was the monk Shitao who asked the layman the question. So are you going to wear black or white? Yeah, that's kind of the question I ask, like when I'm going out to play tennis. And usually I keep my white shoes. I wear when I think it's dirty or ordinary practice, ordinary tennis practice. I wear the black shoes, but sometimes, probably at the tournament, I'll wear the new white ones. Many of these anecdotes take up the notion of monastic versus lay life. To give just two examples. I'm reading. Can you read?
No.
Why can't you read?
Because I don't know.
You can read. That's to give just two examples where... Remember the word cap you learned in your homework? The layman's cap comes into play. You do know how to read. I worked on her homework earlier, and she's on 3-letter words at the moment. So. And then I had read there had been some brilliant essays of Swami Vivekananda, and I ended up getting the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, which is actually quite big, but it comes on the Kindle, it comes in a single, you can get complete works of people. Like you could have the complete works of Henry David Thoreau or something, who had a 17-volume journal. His complete works of Swami Vivekananda. Oh, wow. All of the 9 published volumes are here. 9 published volumes. 3,800 pages. So we can play at driving the ball from one place to another. We can take away the pain from physical plane. It goes to the mental plane. It's like that picture in Dante's Hell, where the misers were given a mass of gold to roll up a hill. Every time they rolled it up a little, it again rolled down. All our talks about the millennium are very nice as schoolboy stories, but they are no better than that. All nations that dream of the millennium also think that of all peoples in the world, They will be the best of it then for themselves. Yeah, and I'm pretty much the best of this time period, this millennium. This is a wonderfully unselfish idea of the millennium. We cannot add happiness to this world similarly. We cannot add pain to it either. The sum total of the energies of pain and pleasure displayed here on earth will be the same throughout. Yeah, we do all this stuff to make improvements but yeah, it's interesting what he says actually. Vivekananda. Oh, you have the complete works of Vivekananda? Yeah. How did you do that? Yeah, well, like I said, there's some things that aren't that expensive. I bought in some things for $2. So. I guess I have to read this one. Kind of rare. It says, a driver of the reddish-white camels, do not hasten with them, but stop, for I am a cripple going after them. Stop the camels and tighten their reins, I beseech thee, by God, by my passion, by my anguish, O driver. My soul is willing, but my feet do not second her. Who will pity and help me? What shall the skilled craftsman do in a case where his tools have declared themselves to be working mischief? There's a book here, it's called The Tarjuman al-Ashwaq, the Interpreter of Desires. It's actually it's an early collection of mystical odes. Wait. Oh, it's of Al-Arabi. It's one of the most prolific medieval Sufi writers. Wrote over 150 books. I wonder if they have the complete works of Arabi. Yeah, so this was the Interpreter of Desires. It's kind of cryptic looking, and it has some Persian in there. And this one turned out to be better than I thought. It's also the Yoga Kundali Upanishad. Oh, wow. You have the Upanishads here? Yeah, so why? They talk about Kumbhaka is a relaxing practice, also known as psychic breathing. The word ujjari comes from the root jaya, meaning victorious. This method can be done anywhere, even while standing or walking. However, it is useful to develop the practice while sitting. It is very subtle and brings about a deep introverted state rapidly and effortlessly. Ujjaya has been integrated into the different meditation practices such as japa and ajapa. Interesting, japa yoga, well, it's been integrated. They have a thing with pranayama. Yeah, I plugged one nostril and breathed out the other one. Actually did that when I read this section. What's it say here? It said, slowly drawing in the breath through both nostrils, mouth closed, he holds his sound through the throat to the heart as long as he wishes. He restrains the prana as before, then exhales through the left nostril. And it goes on and on like that stuff. Oh, really? It's yoga. It's Kundalini yoga, I guess. And the next book, I have some books here that are literary. And so it's not, I'm trying to read maybe the spiritual books. There's a book here, The Demon Knows, the literary greatness of the American sublime, Harold Bloom, and there's The Will to See of Bernard Henry Levy. How did you get that one? That French guy, yeah. That's a French philosopher. Yeah. Then I have the Zen Buddhist philosophy of D.T. Suzuki. Oh, wow. He's cool, isn't he? Well, yeah. How other is other, and so embarrassing and all as occult conclusions may be for psychoanalysis. The cult is still science, albeit bad science, and the not religion, in that the occult still claims natural and scientific explanations for its beliefs. And occultists can assert that psychic ether, let's say, is a part of nature, as much as evolution and wave particles. In fact, occultism is arguably anti-religion in that in seeking scientific verification, it is implying that religious faith is not the right vehicle for truth. Religion believes in the supernatural and a cosmology populated and perhaps created by divine beings. These are beliefs that by definition can only be grounded in faith, not scientific inquiry. Science can theoretically, if we do not worry too much about correct methodology, make anything supernatural become natural and can turn our divine beings into psychic energy. Science's job is to explain everything, and that is precisely what it does. As an eminently occultist Charles Fort once wrote, science is a maw, or a headless and limbless stomach, an amoeba-like gut that maintains itself by incorporating the assimilable and rejecting the indigestible. If we were to ask, what is the difference between the occult and religion, it is at core that religion still hoards an unscientific teleology, whereas the teleology of the occult conforms with the unintentional, mechanical cosmology of science. This means that no matter what we find in nature that we find unusual, such as telepathic ants or teleporting quarks, it will not prove nor disprove the teleological claims of religion, but simply sit parallel to them. The claims of Zen, as espoused by Suzuki, could cohere with the scientific claims of psychoanalysis insofar as it disowns any religious style claims to a cosmological theology. Again, my argument would be that Zen does not do this, and Suzuki always fell back into the religious aspects of Zen when pushed there by his interactions with psychoanalysis. Oh, it's about Suzuki and Zen. Everybody knows that Suzuki brought Zen to the West. What, he did? I don't know. I don't know. And this other book here actually was quite interesting. There's a series of books. They're sort of like Bloomsbury introductions. They brought out all these books on different topics, and this one is Sikh philosophy. And however, as each chapter in this book has tried to demonstrate in different ways, the epistemic stance proper to Sikh philosophy, in one which co-implicates the self in a deep entanglement with other selves and with the world as we attempt to understand it. In other words, Sikh philosophy's epistemic stance, its basic mode of knowing, is not only imbricated in social practice, but in making connections to the outside world, and it does this through the event nature of its key concepts. That is to say, the performative capacity of its concepts, their capacity to make things happen in the world, to change our way in positive ways. To state this differently, the fundamental concept of Sikh philosophy operates
No,
My wife is exercising in the house. Of course, it's a rain day, so I'm going to have to do it. I may actually do yoga today in casa. I may do yoga and exercise in the house. What? Yeah, it's raining all day. Gosh, it's March 20. Is it March 23rd of 2024? And she's made me some chocolate, and it's a new chocolate, and it has some leche in it, and it's powdered leche. Powdered milk with a little cinnamon and clove, actually. I still obsess over cloves because they go into these chives, and they go into the chai that the Tibetans or the Nepalese that they make, and my friend was talking to the lady, Tibetan lady, and he was carrying on. Well, he claims to know basically everything, so that's a little much for a young man, but of course young men, they think they know everything. Oh, yeah. Well, you mean when you're 20, 21, you'll have a tendency they have the delusions of grandeur, that they know everything, or their muscles, or they can win every sport, or they can drive a car as fast as they want and not crash. That's why the insurance rates are so high. But anyway, so he was saying he puts up to 34 items in a sort of elite form of chai that he's making, and so he was discussing this with the lady. Yeah, but he is a bright boy, and he actually wins in volleyball. So who knows? That's interesting, Mommy. Why don't you use the yoga mat? Mommy, you need the mat, that pad she uses. There's a kneeling pad that we have we actually got it from Home Depot. You don't use the pad, the rubber, the yoga mat. She like exercises on the floor. Sometimes she's praying on the hard floor, sort of like I would put down a mat, I think. Well, what about, I thought you said that it was, why don't you do your podcast? You say it's a crime against the state and it's abusive when you have elite, extremely elite literature to read, and if you're the foremost podcaster, yeah, then why don't you, what? That's bueno. Yeah, I'm working on my belly fat. Yeah, there's this belly I have, but plus I saw this TED talk about the gut bacteria, the way they talk to your head. And, I was wondering what my head's saying to my gut when I do meditation. Oh, yeah. The funny thing is that the bacteria has to do meditation with me. Yeah. Because of about a third of my body, or some huge number of my body, is made of foreign entities. What? Yeah, well, it's a good part of my actual body, which, of course, the master says that it isn't me. I'm not even the body. Oh, okay. Okay, so maybe I shouldn't assume. So the gut bacteria can't be me if I'm not even the body. Oh, okay. So it isn't me, yeah. But, yeah, I guess it would have to meditate with me, so if I do meditation, I would think it would calm them down and they wouldn't be so aggressive. If they meditate On behalf of my gut bacteria. Oh, okay. So this reading is for my gut bacteria. And I haven't found a book a book that's on the level of Sandarshan Singh book or a Guru or a Moana Rumi book. So, but I have a lot of books on my Kindle. Like, for instance, I'm going to read segments. This is a sampler. Oh, okay. You're going to do samples? Yeah, I was doing samples of 1 minute segments of the Beethoven sonatas. So I reduced the development sections of the Beethoven sonatas, like starting in the middle and to 1 minute. What? Oh, so in other words, you found a lazy way to play the Beethoven sonatas, yeah. I found it was less stressful for me to just play 1 minute. Oh, yeah, so you were capable of preparing 1 minute. Yeah, I worked on 1 minute of music because of my limited capabilities. So are you going to do the same thing in podcasting, do 1 minute segments? I don't know. I'm going to go with the flow because people who do things that are organized in professional manner, very narcissistic to present themselves as professionals. So I don't want to be like that. This is a simmering, what is this one? Shimmering. Yeah, this guy, the shimmering pearls. Yeah, is it shimmering? Is this podcast a jewel? Well, I'm just trying to find out what this book is about. I now have a lot of books by a guy named Paul Smith, who's actually quite impressive number of translations of Urdu Persian books. He has Shimmering Jewels, the anthology of poetry under the reign of the Mughal Empire. I like to say that. Empire and stuff. So these are shimmering podcasts. Upon his succession to the throne, Humayun had 2 major rivals interested in acquiring his land: Sultan Bahadur of Gujarat to the southwest, and Sir Shah Sher Khan directly currently settled along the river Ganges and Bihar to the east. Humayun's first campaign was to confront Sir Khan Suri halfway through the counter-offensive. Humayun had to abandon it and concentrate on Gujarat, where a threat from Ahmad Shah had to be squelched. What's interesting here is this. Here it says Hunayam. Who is the one who wrote the poetry? All these guys, they're interesting, the Mughal emperors, because of their... Here, it says here that Babur wrote poetry, ghazals in Persian and Turkish. He was greatly influenced by the poetry of Rumi, Jami, and Hafiz. There's Akbar, and they have their diaries and things. Their is it autobiography or their memoirs? I was saying it's quite interesting, the Mughal Empire.